Good? Shutting down?
Yeah.
We'll wait for Jerry to get back.
No, the dog, I
Thank-
can't,
I think we're,
I can't leave the dog.
I need a dog watcher.
we good to go?
This is like a delay.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Durham Board of Select Board meeting. We have a full quorum tonight, so why don't we all rise here for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight? Anybody, any board members have anything to add, subtract? Seeing nothing, we'll move on. Public comment. Anybody here from the public? We have nobody here from the public today. All right, move on, and I will let the road commission and fire chief flip a coin. Who would like to go first? Jump in. Good evening, Calvin.
Evening. You guys get my report?
Yes, we did.
So, we've been continuing work on spring cleanup, town properties and cemeteries. We're on the second round of the cemeteries, getting them ready for 4th of July. We had the bid truck opening for the new truck at Ripley and Fletcher was the low bid at $86,975 for an F550 dump truck with plow. With the body, sander, and the lettering, the truck will be around $99,000. So we had 105 allocated, so we're well under budget.
Great job.
We did crack sealing last week. Crew always looks forward to that, walking for miles and miles. We don't like to broadcast that too far ahead of time. There's a lot of sick people, so we try to keep that close to the vest. But it's not something that the guys like to do anymore than we have to. But
Maybe you can add that to the Fit to Work program.
yeah, made part of our wellness program.
Yeah, exactly.
We've scheduled the roadside mowing. The mower's coming Monday, July 10th. We'll have that through the 14th. I coordinated that with Pownell so that we'll share the cost of one delivery and pickup, about $400 rather than having them take it back and come back to Pownell. And so that works out great for us. We did that last year. We're planning to start ditching this week. And we replaced, I don't know if anybody's been across Soper Road, but we got that
Thank you.
ripped out, and before, we kept putting pavement in there and it kept disappearing, so we've got that replaced and paved and patched and cut a bunch of lumber. We've bought lumber and got templates all made for the picnic tables around town that are all rotted out that we're going to be replacing. That's a pouring rain project. When it's pouring rain, we work on tables.
We got a lot of time to work on tables.
Yeah. I say.
Only pouring rain.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Calvin. Anybody have any questions for Calvin? Rich?
Calvin, do you know which roads we'll be ditching?
We're gonna be
Schedule.
going back to Auburn Pownell Road, then Quaker Meeting House Road. We already, yep.
And then, I know you have no control over this, but do you have any idea on 125 with the bridge? Was that a year or 2 years on that?
That's looking next November.
Next November, okay.
So it's gonna be a one-lane road until next November.
Like a whole year?
Not this November, the following.
The following, so 2024.
Long time, yeah.
I've had like 4 people ask me this week. And I'm like, you know what? I think he told me. I can't remember.
Gonna be a long process. Yeah. All right?
I just have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, your hand was up first, Heather. My bad.
No, go for it, that's fine.
Just
sorry.
purely out of curiosity, How often do you have to replace the picnic tables? You usually get quite a while out of
We
them,
got
right?
10 years out of them this
Yeah.
time. I was looking at the date on them, it was 2000, or 2011, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
10, 11, you get 11, 12 years out of them.
Not bad at all.
Nope.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So at Dead Man's Curve, there are flashing lights that we have there.
Yep.
I'm wondering, I've had to do a lot of back and forth through that intersection over the last 2 weeks, and I noticed that it doesn't seem like those lights are working, and I'm wondering if it's because we've like literally had no sun, and so maybe they're not powered up properly, or if it, and I know that this is state road, and so maybe that, you know, you're
Well-
not the person to ask that question, I'm not sure, but
Well, I guess, I don't, that's the first I've heard they aren't working, so what makes you think they're not
so
working?
so like I'll be stopped at one of the ways coming through, and there is someone that has passed the sensor pole, right? Because they're coming down around the curve into the
Yeah.
intersection, and there's no indicator light saying that there's traffic coming into the intersection, and it's happened multiple times over the last 2 weeks. So I was just trying to get a sense of like, my assumption was that we just haven't had enough sun, and so the solar lights aren't
No, it
powering
shouldn't-
it. But
no, it should work, so I can go check it out. I'll test it tomorrow and see.
okay.
Yeah, but, to my knowledge, it's been working, but if you're telling me it's not, so which way are you coming out of?
I don't turn, so I don't.
Well, I did it multiple, so I try really hard to avoid going where the road's one lane. So I will come down over Dead Man's Curve and go straight across
On the swamp?
On the
onto
swamp.
Swamp Road.
Yeah. So you won't see anything flashing
Yep,
that way?
so nothing that way. And then when I'm coming back, I'll come back Swamp, and I'm waiting, and there'll be people coming down, and I'm not seeing anything flashing.
Yeah.
And then one time, I came across from Plummer, again, trying to avoid that one lane road, and nothing was flashing then either, so.
I'll test it. I do know it times out. I know that if someone comes out of that first driveway or two, it's not gonna go off because they don't go by the sensor.
Yeah.
And they couldn't move the sensor down further because of all those pine trees.
Right.
Yeah.
So if somebody pulls over beside the road after they go by the sensor and is just sitting there looking at a map or something and then decides to go, you're not gonna see that flash then. But the theory behind that is they won't be going fast enough at that point to create any issues, but.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed is that that sign is tilted in a way that the light hits it. You don't see the lights, even though they're blinking, and sometimes I don't see them. I go, and somebody comes down over the hill, and then as I'm going by the sign, I can then see the lights. So sometimes it's more the angle, but I'll look at it, because I go through there every day.
When you're coming from which way?
Swamp Road, when I stop at Swamp.
Coming
Road.
out of Swamp?
Yeah, coming, going up
Okay,
the hill.
yeah, all
That
right.
sign
I'll have
has
to
got
check
like a
that.
little, but I realize that's not a big deal. I mean, it's state road, I
Well,
mean,
we'll
it's a
check
big
it.
deal, but
Well,
it's not.
actually, we own the sign. That was part of our contract when they gave that to us, is that we assume all responsibility for repairs, maintenance, and so that is our problem.
Our maintenance.
Not maintenance. Oh, good, good.
Okay, sorry, I just added to your task.
All right, well, check it out. All right, thanks for letting me know.
I'll look at it too when I go through there.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thanks, Calvin. Chief? Evening?
Hi. Quick updates, I've added a few from what's in front of you. The fire department entered into a long-term partnership, more like they've sort of signed us out from Androscoggin County Sheriff Communications, so our dispatch has given us 5 portable radios and 2 truck-mounted radios, so we can talk to Lewis and Auburn, ourselves. Our radios are really older and failing, and we're waiting on grants, so anything we can do. It's estimated to be about $25,000 sort of partnership that they're loaning us, long-term loan. Already put in service, so that's fantastic. I'll be attending several workshops put on by the county EMA. I've already attended one in relation to preparing our multi-jurisdictional plan to submit to the state and FEMA. That's based on our 5-year update plan, floodplains, that type of stuff. Natural hazard mitigation. EMA updated us that our other $25,000 radio grant has made it through the first round of acceptance up at the state. It'll be pushed on to FEMA and then back down. So that'll probably be a fall type of thing for confirmation for that. But again, between the two, that's 10% of my whole budget, you know, just for radios that we're trying to acquire. So that's working out.
That's great.
The fire department generator has been installed. Several upgrades were made to the station infrastructure. Apparently, when you put in a gas, sort of propane-fired one, gas company comes out, they test things. We had 4 different regulators, gas regulators, some of them were 22 years old, according to those guys. So they were all tested and actually replaced. And that's on the gas company, so we'll see a bill of, that will cover for, some fittings and some elbows and whatnots that they had to add, but we were upgraded. Apparently our kitchen stove needs upgrading, so we'll look at that. It's propane fired, but it doesn't have any regulators on it. It just sort of free flows if the pilot lights out. So work in progress there. But the generator's been tested, it's working. All's good there. I do want to say on camera that our own Chris Higgins, a longtime member, has obtained his paramedic license. So that is a long-term, 2-year commitment, countless hours between studying and travel and hospital time and whatnot. So he's signing up for shifts, he's, covering us. He's gone over to Lisbon several times. I mean, he's really using it, and it really helps the town.
That's great.
All the
Congratulations
citizens,
to Chris.
it's fantastic. We also have 3 other members that are working with us that are in paramedic school. And again, some are different, but they're on the 2-year associate's degree track. So I encourage them to study. We all talk about calls, critique them afterwards, that type of thing. So it helps everyone. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Just took a phone call tonight on the way. We were asked by Lisbon Fire to help out with their Moxie Parade. I believe that's going to be the 8th. So last year we did the same. We sent an engine company over there on the other side of the parade to help them. That'll be 4 members and 2 at the bridge directing traffic just during the parade. So again, I'll be looking for volunteers. One last thing, update that's not on your forms, what I call on the radar. Some of our night EMS coverage availability is starting to slip. We've had about 3 or 4 members sort of move out of town. So it's, one's over in Cook's Corner, another one's in Bath. We had one guy to go to Freeport. So we're down to like Chris Higgins, who can't do it all, and myself, 2 or 3 EMS providers at night. What that means is we've already done over 200 911s this year. That's on pace for record well over 400. 35% of our calls are at night, 7 at night to 7 in the morning is what we consider. So that's 70 calls we've done, in that time frame. So it's not the volunteer firefighter side, but it's the ambulance, sort of the technicians, the EMTs in the back. We get drivers all day long that are fantastic. So just on the radar, as EMS providers move out of town, we'll have to think of creative ways, that's all. We've managed all our calls. I don't think we've done any mutual aid into town. We've certainly provided several recently. So, small town stuff. Any questions for me on those?
Go ahead, Joe.
So how often during the week do you think you're going without EMS coverage at night?
It's not that we're EMS. There's probably, we have that stipend at night. You can sign up for $35 that just says, I will respond regardless, and then we'll pay you. I'm probably getting 4, a week to sign up, and of course I cover everything. I know I've been in the back, I don't know, up to 10 times. I've documented it just for, data purposes. It's not sustainable. I mean, I have an EMT license and it's appropriate, but not sustainable. I mean, the busier you get, it's tough to, I go to almost every call, and now that we have a vehicle, but as you've seen or heard or others have heard, it's just difficult, at midnight. I still go, but if you tech the call, that's another 2 hours. Going to the hospital, dropping them off, bringing them back, doing the report. All our reports are mandated to be in the computer within 24 hours. And if it's a hot call, the doctor wants them now so that they can refer back and forth. So just on the radar, I have loosened the requirements. It used to be just in Durham you could respond, but Freeport's over the line. I'm in Pownell. Those guys are now responding to the scene, so there's no lack of patient care. They just come there, and I'll take their car home or back to the station.
Right.
Just trying to be creative as
Yep.
far as.
I was going to ask you if there's anything we can do to help in social media or whatever, or.
Yeah, it's really the proximity. Maybe it opens a dialogue of trying night per diems. You know, if we have one during the day, you know, we talk about night per diems, just so that there's someone guaranteed to be there and respond in a timely fashion. It's
Yeah.
about,
No,
it's
I
about
get
response
that,
times.
yeah. No, I get that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Good.
I-
Chief?
We're gonna go to an agenda item to talk about the ambulance stuff, correct? Okay,
Yep.
that's okay.
All right. Okay. All right, Jerry, I will hand this over to you now.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Manager's
Chairman.
report, thank you.
Everything's going pretty good here. I just have a couple things. On 6/14, I met with the planning board chairs, the planning board chair, the chair of the appeals board, historic commission, conservation commission, and that whole planning summit. Very good meeting. There was a lot of discussion. I was impressed. A lot of ambition out there. I guess as a manager, my concern would be is if we've got enough funding to support the ambition. But you'll get a report on July 5th from the planning board chair on how that's going and how that meeting.
Great.
I won't steal his.
That's good
his
to-
thunder.
Good to know there were a lot of ideas. That's-
Yeah,
that's
it
the-
was
that's
a great
the-
discussion.
that's the-
It was really good. So our financial services, you know, they're handling all the AP now. They have been. You've got your actually first warrant from them, the AP
Mhm.
warrant in your email. There's a little bit of detail left out of that report. He's working on that to provide a little bit more, the descriptions. And he'll start payroll next week. So we're gonna do our last payroll to the end of June, because that ends a quarter, and he wants to start fresh with a brand new quarter, so looking forward to that. I attended a new managers workshop that the MMA put on. That was pretty enlightening. I really enjoyed that. A lot of good information in that workshop. Training is always good. You always learn something and pick some stuff up, which is gonna help me a lot. Other than that, I just wanna let you know, I'm gonna take some time off here coming up. So I'm gonna be taking off Thursday, the 29th, that's this Thursday, July 3rd, 5th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, which means on July 11th, I won't be here. I'll have Jessica fill in for me. I'll have everything ready for you to go. She'll just be sitting here and just kind of like making sure that you got the materials for the meeting, and I've already started working on that agenda for that meeting.
Great.
So, other than that, we're doing good here. I thank the staff, Public Works, Fire, everybody's doing good. They just really do a really nice job. So things are great,
Great.
yeah, so.
All right. Any questions for Jerry? Go ahead, Heather.
This was something that we had discussed in one of your managers' reports a little while back, about the ARPA reporting and
Mhm.
whether or not we were like sanctioned because it wasn't done on time, and I'm just wondering if like there's been any updates or anything that's come back down.
We won't get sanctioned. I'm still working on it, and until I'm concerned, there's no reason for you folks to be concerned. When I get concerned, then I'll let you know.
Okay,
I still can't get past the portal, so we're going back and forth, and it's documented because there's emails going back and forth between me and the treasury.
okay.
Right. And
So-
my understanding is other towns are having
Oh,
the same
yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
similar issues that.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if and I don't want to get into all the details.
Right.
I'm just sort of, but there's information that I'm not aware of, and I don't know if the previous town manager had a login, because I can't get past it, so I'm just working on that.
Okay.
And, you know, and I've been doing this long enough. If they want their report, they can knock on that door, they can come in here and say, where's my report? And I'll say, you get me into your portal and I'll get you your report. I just can't get in
Okay.
right now, currently the way it is.
I love government.
Yeah.
Joe?
You mentioned that, so in our packet that we had the town planner report, you said that is that what he's gonna present on our next meeting?
No, I just give the town report, the planner report to you folks just for
Okay,
information.
cool, yeah, because I just saw it mention some stuff about the meeting that you all
Right,
had, so.
right. That just sort of supplements. And like the CEO report, that's for your information. on what we do. And unless you have questions, you can always email me questions if you have
Mhm.
questions about it, and then I can get it to the people.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna comment, it looked like a lot of the town boards and commissions looked pretty willing to step up to.
Oh, yeah, so this ambition is really gonna really hinge on the work of the committees. Because, you know, George is 20 hours a week. He's not gonna have time to do all of what they've talked about, so it's really, the committees are really gonna have to step up, and I'm sure they will.
Yep.
Hopefully they will, so.
Okay.
That
Good.
pretty much,
Anybody
yeah,
else?
that pretty much concludes what I have.
All right.
I had a process or question, I don't know if it's process or information, but knowing that, a lot of work is gonna fall on committees, I know that at that last workshop we had, they talked about how in some towns, that some of the select boards will help some of the committees do some of the work on their time outside. Is that something that our board is okay with people doing? I mean, cause I'm on the conservation committee, but I stepped down as chair when I, got
Yeah,
elected.
I don't see any problem with the select board members being on the
Yeah.
committees. I mean, I think you're right, though, you know, being the chair or co-chair is probably not the
Yeah, that's why I
right-
stepped
the
down
right
from it.
place. But, you know, I'm on the CIP committee, and I am
Mhm.
co-chair right now. Well, we may rectify that when the
Mhm.
fall comes, when we reestablish that committee. But, yeah, I don't, I mean, yeah, help out. I mean, I think the important thing to remember is, as a select board member, you need to spin your hat when you get back on the
Mm.
board. It doesn't preclude you from voting, right? I mean, you can still vote on the things that the committee goes and says, well, you wanna do 1 through 5 in this order.
Mhm.
You've already done your vote, because you've already been part of the committee, so when the committee comes in, it really, you know, you're kind of in a supporting role at that point. But as far as being on the committee, I don't really see a problem with the committee.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure folks on the select board are comfortable. I mean, cause it's like some of the stuff, I didn't attend this meeting,
Yeah.
but some of the stuff that the Conservation Commission has agreed to work on, I have subject matter
Yep.
expertise in. So my thought is I'm going to just advocate for, this is the process, here's how it works, answer those specific subject matter questions, and not really dive into any sort of like, never gonna say things like, well, the select board's gonna want this, or the select board feels this way, just, I just wanna make sure you all understand that I'm
You-
walking that line when I'm
Yeah,
assisting.
You're not representing the select board when
Yeah.
you're at those meetings. That's, again, the spin the hat routine, you know, when
Mhm.
you're on the select board, you're a select board member, you spin the hat, you're on the committee, and
Mhm.
the two need to stay, you know,
Yeah.
relatively separated in your processing of the issue.
Yeah, I just wanna bring it up, cause I
Those
know
two
we've talked a
different-
little bit about being on committees or not and whatnot, so I just wanna make sure everyone knew where I was standing at, so, cool.
I think you'll be an asset there.
Yeah.
Appreciate that
Yeah.
you're willing to.
Kevin used to do a lot of committee work. with
Yeah.
people too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You just
Um,
don't want to dictate, like, I think the select board would go this
yeah,
direction.
no,
Right,
and all
right.
this
That's
stuff,
really the only thing you gotta.
all this
Yeah,
stuff
stay
is
away
that
from
I,
That's the only thing you gotta stay
Yeah.
away from.
and
That's
with
the
all
only
this
thing to
stuff, it's
stay
just,
away from.
I've professionally navigated these
No,
sorts
I
of
think it's
things, so
great.
I can just lend that insight there.
You don't want the committee not saying something because you're a select board
That's-
member either. That's the other part. They tend to maybe
The
not.
one I would say you can't really do is the budget committee.
Yeah,
the
that's
only
probably the
else.
one, yeah.
That's the
That
only
was-
one else.
Yeah, that would be the one to stay away
Well,
from.
I think appeals board, I did step down from appeals board, because some of the things that, like,
I would
however it
agree.
goes
Yeah,
to
that's
appeals,
probably a good
then
idea.
select
Because-
board is
You don't
the
get
other
We're the
to,
next-
you get to,
yeah.
yeah, you get to vote
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
I
you know?
do wish that I could have stayed there, but I
Yeah.
completely understand that I couldn't stay
Those
there.
If you
more-
don't wanna get here, they can.
Those more judicial type committees,
Yeah.
you want to
Mhm.
try to stay away from.
With the quasi judicial, what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Quasi-judicial.
Yeah, quasi-
Those ones are
those
freaking.
ones, yeah. Stay away-
Cool,
stay
alright,
away
I just wanna
from
make sure we're all on the same page.
Yep, no, I think we are. All right, any other questions before we move on? Okay,
Thanks,
we want
Jerry.
to jump into the ambulance reconciliation.
Yep, come on up, chief.
Chief, and Chief, while you came back up, I just noticed this other memo on the back of your status here. Maybe I didn't hear you, real quick.
That's
Separate?
Yeah, it's separate.
Oh,
It's
okay,
separate.
sorry, it was
Yeah.
stapled there.
Right.
No, I fault.
Ignore the staple.
Yeah.
Ignore the staple for now,
Yeah.
all right?
So I'll take the first lead on this, and then Chief.
Okay, go right ahead.
So after the last discussion, Chief and I got together and we decided, we gotta bring a little bit more data to you folks so you can, discuss and give some direction. So what I had him do, which you'll find in this sheet right here, this Excel spreadsheet. So what I had him do was call up the towns that are in population 10 above us and 10 below us, and just sort of ask them how they handle their EMS billing. And come to find out of the 20 on here, 19 of them do go to collections. And Chief can talk more about the town has an option to write it off. Just to kind of give you a little bit more data, and then I hunted for some policies. There are some policies out there. This a policy that I gave you folks is a policy that came from the town of Union. It's just a sample to kind of give you an idea if you're looking for that kind of thing, policy, but I believe a lot of these towns that Chief had talked to, the collection side of it is just a component of the billing side. They work hand in hand with Comstar, and Chief can kind of go into the details, but as we talk to more towns and more towns, 19 out of 20 are sending it to collections if they're not being paid, so you have that at least. I don't know if Chief wants to add anything more to that, to kind of.
Well, I certainly answer questions. To refresh, you know, I'm looking for a direction. We have roughly 40,000 in outstanding ambulance bills. And, you know, do you all want to write those off as a town? Do you want to use the component of the billing process to send to collections? And don't forget, I know we included in your packet a hardship application. So at any time through our billing company, there is, and they reach out 3 times. This isn't just on the first. They always submit a hardship application or the form. And that's for them to verify. It's not just check a box. So on that form, you'll see, you know, family size, annual income, a tax return. They're just trying to good faith that it's a hardship as far as the bill. And that's on that's what we pay for, our private ambulance company, who is working well with us. So the question is, do you want to exercise the component of going to collections? As the town manager said, I did talk with all the towns, the 20 of them, and that I broke it down to, as you can see, if it's a private ambulance, it'd be like United, Delta, or if it's fire-based like we have, or a county-based, there's a hospital-based, that type of stuff. And again, 19 out of 20 use the component. Your next question is, you know, how much does collections cost? So the one that I got a quote from, which works hand in hand with our ambulance billing, also in Massachusetts, but their software goes back and forth. They're at a 33.33% take. It's at will, so it's not a yearly contract. They don't have money up front like our ambulance billing. Whatever they recoup is a 33 1/3, and then they make deposits every month to the town. I did include their information in your packet as one component, and I'm told that's about the going rate. You know, you can try to negotiate, if you will, but that's roughly the going rate, and there's nothing for us to do. If you do the math, the outstanding 40,000, you know, they're not 100% recoup. They could be looking at 16,666, and the town's looking at recouping 26,666 into, again, general fund, undesignated, if you will. So the question is that where you want to head for the outstanding balances, use that component.
Joe?
I have 2 clarifying questions.
Sure.
So when you said that the billing company reaches out 3 times, has that happened for all of the people with outstanding debt so far?
Yes.
So everyone's already received over the last year 3 notifications?
Yep, they get straight from them 30, 60, 90 days. They're made aware of a hardship application. I do have information here, this was telling, from our last quarter alone, they found, and this is from our ambulance billing, 36 patients responsible for the invoice didn't respond in any way. So three bills, if you will, 3 invoices, no response. 2 had bad addresses, that could be on the patient purpose or not. 2 were deceased, so they don't go after the estate type of thing, or it hadn't been settled. This was telling also. 3 insurance companies paid the patient directly, and the patient did not respond to the invoice. So you've seen that usually with motor vehicle accidents or how your insurance is set up. They were paid to move that along, to pay their bills, and they decided not to on 3 occasions, just this quarter. And one PCR, also known as a patient care report, was received over the filing limit of insurance. Sometimes a Medicare will have like a 30-day and then they refuse, or even a motor vehicle accident type of thing. And that could be either on us or the hospital or something. And I have updated, we do EMS, continuing education once a month at the station, and I've updated all our EMS workers of, hey, billing counts, addresses count, it's more than just patient care. It's really due diligence on our part to collect all this, and we double check with the hospital.
I just wanted, thank you, I just wanted to, you said that it was part of our packets, and I just wanna make sure that
Yes.
I am seeing all the information. So I'm seeing the hardship application, I'm
Yes.
seeing the ambulance collection waiver policy,
Yes.
and I'm seeing the Excel
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
they didn't get,
They didn't get this? Okay, I apologize. I sent it,
Send it to me.
just recently, 2
Yeah.
days ago is why. This is just the collection company that I'm talking about, who happens to be hand in hand with our billing company, that's all. It was interesting. They actually use certified collection teams, so it's not, anyone off the street. They're trained, they're certified to do this. Responses is in 24 hours. The average client there has 2 to 6 years of age of accounts continued with them. You get detailed monthly statements. They've had less than 1% consumer complaints, that type of stuff. But these are certified, trained team members. They call them team members there.
Okay. But there was one other thing, but I think I forgot it, so go ahead and move on, I'll come back, I'll remember.
And Chief, last time you were here, I thought you said the number was $8,000, but it would be a wash after we pay them.
Not on the total for 40, and I don't believe we were using the math of 33%.
Okay.
Those are hard figures, so we're at, now, this goes back a year and a half at least since we started with our ambulance company, Comstar, so that's where that 40 comes from, and that's always sort of ebbs and flows, but usually growing. They do go back and get some, so we're at that.
Okay, because that was gonna be my next question, was the $8K from just last year, last quarter, or was the $40K in
Yeah, we're
total
going back to almost 21,
We're going back to 20?
almost, yeah. when we
Because that was my
started.
next question. Where are we starting and stopping this number at? So 21?
Yes,
And that's when we started the service with them.
correct.
And do we know, and you might not know this, is there a statute of limitations?
They know, I don't have that information.
Okay. And then you also said that in one quarter you were short, you gave some numbers on a quarter. Was that the quarter for this first fiscal year?
Their last quarter. I don't know if they're doing fiscal quarters
Okay.
or billing cycles.
I'm just trying to.
Only
figure out, like,
because it's.
Is this for 2022?
Sure, sure.
Going forward from 2023 on, or where are we trying to collect from, I guess is what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
Nobody has reconciled any outstanding balance since we started with Comstar. So I believe we started in 21. It was certainly before I arrived. So they could go back legally if they can. They're
I
back.
think so.
And we're about more than 40 in the hole.
Yeah, I think in the past, we were using, you correct me if I'm wrong, it might have predate your time, but we were using Freeport for our billing.
Correct, that's correct.
And there were, well, I think with COVID and maybe short staff, et cetera, there were no billings going on.
Correct.
So that, I would be apprehensive to send somebody a bill now, even though they never got one because of.
And I agree, and I was, through research, made aware of that.
Okay.
There was, and that's, I believe, why the last fire chief switched over to a private company.
That's correct, that's correct. That's correct.
There were some discrepancies,
Absolutely.
difficulties, so they went with Comstar. They're big in Massachusetts, I'm familiar with them. There's other companies, there is one in Maine. They've been working well with us, and again, for their collection, they have the software of this one company.
Oh,
So we would be going back since the time of Comstar.
so approximately 21 and a half, something in
Yes,
that area,
yes,
so.
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Joe?
So, yeah, just to follow up on what Rich just said, so that 40K is outstanding since we started using Comstar.
Yes, should be.
Yeah, and,
Rough numbers, always moving.
and does that include the amount that we can't, theoretically could not go after because of?
No, that's a great
So
question.
this is just the remainder?
Yes, that we
Okay.
can go after.
Okay.
Yes, because it's illegal to,
With-
Medicare,
Yeah.
Medicaid, make them pay the difference.
And so those numbers, sorry,
We've accepted, when you accept payment from Medicare, there's
Yeah.
a long process.
and
Um,
so oh, totally just blanked on my train of thought here on the number I was gonna ask. Yeah, so the 40K is just what we could go after for, and then whatever they collected would be, they would take a 33 and a 3% cut,
Yes.
and then the remainder would come
Yep.
to
And
department. And of that so far,
when you say the party, actually, the
oh,
town.
sorry, the town.
Yeah, I just
Um,
want to make it clear.
And of that, you just read last quarter that 33% or 36% of people didn't respond. There were a couple of deceased, couple address
Correct.
changes, no one paid. What, do you know
I don't-
about
I don't
any of the
have-
previous year?
No, they didn't provide that.
Okay.
Heather?
My question, and if you don't know the answer, is completely fine. I'm looking at the family size and the annual income, and I'm just wondering if this follows along with like 125% of the poverty. Like, are those numbers
They-
established by?
They actually are. I don't know if it's, as you said, the 125 of the poverty. This is from our Comstar. And this is Maine, I believe it is to their federal, what they can,
So that would just be my only thing for
Sure, because-
follow-up, is to make sure that if Maine and Massachusetts are different
Different,
levels,
yep, no.
that whatever we send out matches
Correct.
what Maine says.
and when I talked to him on the phone, that's what that was. And it almost is a federal guideline, if you will.
Okay.
Because sure, California has a higher, rate, or Portland may than Durham type of stuff, so.
All right, so, as I see it, unless we see anything that anybody wants to talk about the letter here, I'll leave that up to you guys to work out the letter. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we send the outstanding debt to collections.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Heather seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, my thought on this is knowing that this isn't a new thing in terms of like people have received a notification that they've gotten a bill. It doesn't seem like it's a shot in the dark to me, so it seems reasonable if you've got a bill at 30, 60, and 90 days that you'd be expected to pay for it. And it just seems like every time chief is in here, our call volume seems to be going through the roof, and I can see this being exasperated more and more. And seeing as the collections would not cost us out of money pocket, it sounds like Chief was saying it's at will, not yearly, no upfront cost. I think it would be appropriate to send that remaining $40,000 to collections.
I think it would be important for us to not only vote to do this, and I agree with it, but I think it's also important for us to discuss the policy that's been presented, because I think it should be in a policy, and so that, I think,
Posted and known
and I think, so I think I would offer a friendly amendment to include not only sending it to collections, but also adopting. I think this policy follows kind of what we've discussed. And I think, to me, it sounds acceptable. The rate, the 1/3 is, I think, the typical collection rate that I've always seen and I charged when I was in private practice. So none of that bothers me. It's not money out of our pocket. When you talked earlier tonight about maybe adding a nighttime per diem, and extra expenses, things are getting more expensive. The need is greater now than it has been in the past. And these are services that the town is certainly entitled to be reimbursed for, paid for. I think, one thing I will say, I'm disappointed, the letter that they send isn't in here. The hardship application, but the letter, and I would have been interested to see that, but I'm assuming it's standard, so I would offer a friendly amendment to also, not only send the outstanding bills, I guess, from the Comstar error to collection, but also to, adopt the policy as presented.
Yeah, I'll accept the friendly amendment.
Do I got a second? An amendment? All right, so not only are we going to send this to collections, but, what's that?
Just said one thing before we go back.
Yeah, I was just, yep, go right ahead.
My only thing is the 2021, so if you were fortunate enough to take a ride the day before we went to Comstar, you won't be getting a bill.
Correct.
I think that's why I said in the past, like, I think the policy is important, to have a policy of what we actually do. I mean, I think that's kind of long, like, half of 2021 doesn't get a bill, and the other 2021 has a bill, and we didn't even have a policy in place. Other than that, I'm fine with everything else.
I would look at it the same as if we pass the policy tonight, it goes into effect.
It's the same thing, I agree, that's why I'd rather have a policy before I send people to collections, personally, as a town, but I can see the need why we need this, but that's why I was in favor of having a policy prior to us, because it's set, the people know in the town, hey, if you happen to use our ambulance, there is a charge for it that you may be responsible for, versus just, I know it's been a year and a half, but now we're knocking on your door and putting you in collections.
I think if I remember correctly, the last time you were here, the collection letter was being sent out by Comstar.
No, that was also a component.
It hasn't been?
It has not been.
And what, do you know, was it sent out by Freeport?
I
Was
don't
anything-
know that. I don't believe so, but I don't.
I not only say I don't believe so, because Freeport they kind of lost control of the ship a little bit, I think. So, you know what I mean, they had some real staff issues post-COVID, et cetera. That's my only hesitation, just, it's just that time, like, hey, if you were in this window, we're gonna whack you, but if you weren't, you get a free pass. So if we said 2022, or even going forward from 2023 here on, we have this policy in the future, or from here on out, our policy is we're sending people to collections, because we've never done it in 19, we've never done it in 20, so that's my only.
I understand where you're coming from, Rich, but at the same time, I wasn't familiar with a policy of it not going to collections, so as long as I've lived here, I would have paid any ambulance bill that came my way, just under the assumption that if I'm receiving a bill for services rendered, the expectation is to pay. So I wouldn't have risked it and just not paid and then hope no one came knocking on the door. So I would have to believe that someone in town has paid a bill, not knowing that then later on it was just rolled over. So I would feel pretty burned in that regard, saying, well, if I would have known, I never would have paid.
I think that's
Yeah.
a fair argument.
Because it makes me wonder, I paid an ambulance bill that was $900 cash, and it makes me wonder, like, should I have? Not in this town, but in another town. So, like, I could have split,
No, yeah, and I would be fine with that, and I don't know if the statute of limitations would allow, and I would agree with that 100% if we were sending everybody who's never paid the town bill.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not doing that.
I mean, I think we have to pick a date.
Right, that's what I'm
And-
saying, that's
and-
all I'm saying, is
And,
I think it should be a fiscal year for like 2022.
I mean, I don't, I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with it,
That's
but
Mm-hmm.
I could, either.
I mean, I think we
I
have
think there's
the
a, there,
As long as we,
motion as, yeah.
as long as there's a policy, I think.
Right, that's my point, we don't have
Whatever,
one.
well, but I don't, I think it's safe to assume if you got a bill,
3 times.
I mean, but there hasn't been a policy not to send it to collections, it's just been a practice.
Right.
So, I mean, we paid our bill when my wife was in an accident. And so, I mean, you gonna reimburse me for that?
Sure.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm a jerk and I don't have much sympathy for that. But I mean, if the board wants to pick a different date, I would not be opposed, as long as there's a policy in place, at least going forward from today.
Heather, you had a question?
it wasn't a question, it was a comment. I think there has to be like a catalyst of when we choose, right? And so I think we have something monumental that happened that we have the data back to, which is switching to the billing company. And so perhaps it's that, perhaps it's the adoption of the policy, or somewhere in the middle where we, pick a start date. But in my mind, switching to the billing company where we have the data that's concrete that we can go back to feels like, a big enough catalyst to start at that point. That's my opinion.
To second what you're saying, Heather, I think what makes me feel a little bit better, because at some point, anytime you change a policy, there's someone who's gonna say, well, yesterday, I should have waited till tomorrow to do this, right? To your point, I think that with the change in the process, and then we know that it was kind of in flux in the previous billing, but then the change in the process and everyone got 3 bills segmented 30, 60, and 90 days. I think that is a fair indication to people that there's an expectation to pay for a service. So I think that that's a fair process. We have to pick a time, so I would agree with that. So I would just advocate for my motion with Josh's friendly amendments.
I think Jerry wanted to chime in.
Just on the policy, so you folks drive policy, right? So you have a sample here, so if we're gonna edit this, if we're gonna work on this, we need to work on this together to keep me from drafting
Well-
it, sending it to you, well, change this, change that, okay, change this, so there needs to be some sort of communication workshop, real quick to, if this is the sample you like, we can do it. I just don't wanna do 4 or 5 iterations of it to try to nail it down, to serve the board.
I'm actually okay with that policy.
Okay.
That's-
I don't have any issue with the
Yeah,
policy.
actually, I didn't,
Well,
yeah.
My only issue is,
Implementation date.
what was the policy? What is the policy?
Yeah,
That was my issue.
I didn't read it all tonight, but when I read it the other day,
Yeah,
I did read
I have several more, and some of them pretty lengthy and pretty technical
No,
and
it's
all
just-
that.
no, that,
No,
I
I
think
to the
Chief-
the only,
You asked the chief, like when he was talking to some towns, some of them don't even have policies, it's just, they just consider it a component of their.
They did,
It's just,
one of the tasks that Jerry gave me was, in if they have a policy. I mean, these were discussions with all these people, like, how does it work? Do you go to collections? How do you write it off? Do you have a policy? These were conversations. It took me weeks. Just know, the latest, and this is not a suggestion, the latest though in the ambulance world, Brunswick and Oxford, is lift assist. I mean, they're charging for lift assist.
Man,
I'm just, it's a medical call, right? We always do a run report on it. Are you injured type of stuff. But they're trying to deter sort of agencies or practices or abuse, if you will. But there is way more out there than I think you're all deciding on.
Heather?
so when we're talking about the policy, my only thing would be that when I'm reading this, and we're using ComStar in order to implement this, is that our policy, or will they take our policy and then adjust their procedure
Sure.
to match our policy? I think if our policy doesn't match what the company that we're using's process is, that could be a situation. So I just wanna make sure that whatever we adopt is gonna coincide with.
Is alignment with what their normal
Yeah.
practice.
And I did recognize that and did the timetable. So the last front page, the last paragraph, under collections, payments are due 30 days after the billing cycle, if you haven't, then 90 days, that type of stuff. It all
That
coincides
comes out of
exactly
Comstar.
with Comstar.
Okay.
It mirrors it directly. And they will work with us. They do tailor to the departments, but that's what that came from. And
So-
as Jerry said, it's a local ambulance company, sort of like ours.
I mean,
So-
it
Main
matches-
base.
It seems to match the hardship application.
Yeah, also the hardship I remind you all, at any point, wherever you decide to land, there's always the hardship application. So even with collections, that would be sent out also.
Okay. So I have a
It-
motion. Go
if it
ahead.
helps.
Just one other point that I just want the board to think about. We're collecting this money.
Mhm.
Where do you want it to go?
General fund.
General fund, so
Yeah,
you don't want,
goes
you don't
to
wanna,
non-designated.
It's not where I want it to go, but that's where it has to
It
go.
has to go.
now, but you can change that. You could have
Well,
an
that's true.
enterprise account.
Yeah.
But we would have to
Less
change it
money,
first.
You have to change it. Ambulances are expensive,
Yeah.
right? So by collecting this money, if you put it in an enterprise account, maybe you collect it over 10 years, maybe you'll have $100,000, $150,000 to put towards your ambulance. I just throw that
So
out
just
to
a
you.
point of
That's all.
clarification there, then, we would have to adopt a policy and then later adopt a policy to have that money designated, or is that something you can,
No, that's,
of course, for the cart thing here,
well, that's what I was just gonna ask, so was
Might
that,
be.
which way did you?
You can put it into the general fund like you want,
Mm-hmm.
like it's currently now. But again, you're gonna need an ambulance down the road. Do you wanna use some of that money to help pay for that ambulance? It's
Don't
a,
go on that one before, because that's been talked about.
has it, so I just bring that up, because
Not
I
the
talk to
ambulance,
town
but they-
managers all the time. So some of these things get planted in my brain through other town managers, so I just bring it up to you, that's all.
So when we're talking about this specific, exactly what you just brought up, this is how this used to work. We had, this system did exist where there was a separate fund. The revenue from the ambulance went into fire department budget or into its own whatever. And then when we were trying to consolidate all of the smaller accounts, that changed. That was something that got voted on at town meeting,
Right.
to put any revenue that wasn't earmarked for a specific thing into undesignated funds. And so I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with, because I agree with you, we are gonna need another ambulance and, I'm just saying that we did have a process where this used to happen this way and then it was voted on at town meeting and it was changed. And so I just wanna make sure that if we are gonna adopt a policy and we are gonna create a separate account, that's something that we're allowed to just do and that doesn't have to go to town meeting to undo what we did at town meeting. Does that make sense?
And I'd rather not
yeah.
get all these subjects wrapped into this one thing of going after $42,000. I'd rather we got a motion on the floor, which is to go after $42,000 via Comstar's collection route and a new policy that seems to fit in with Comstar's procedures, and to vote those in. And then if we want to attack whether we do a budget item separately or roll it into a different town for discussion, then I think we should keep that as a separate discussion.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
I'd like to would we like to take a vote?
Yeah, I think we should take a vote.
Let's call it a motion.
All right, so I'd like to call a motion that we go to Comstar and go after $42,000 in collections, see how that works out for us, along with the implementing the ambulance collection waiver policy for the town of Durham. All in favor? All opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, we'll discuss
Can I
the other
say-
thing at a later date.
Can I just say two things really quickly?
Yep.
I just wanna say how much I appreciate this, additional information. When we had that original conversation, it seemed as though the consensus was that a lot of towns wrote that off. And so having this to, get a little bit better of a perspective around that was really helpful, and so thank you, I really appreciate that. And then the other thing is that if Jerry or Chief, you feel that what you just brought up is something that you don't want to get, swept underneath, you know, because we have so much that we have to work on, please like put that on your radar to make sure that you bring that back to our attention. Cause, you know, I think we have a big list of stuff that we have to deal with. And so the rest of us might not remember that that's a priority for you. So if that's a priority for you and you think that that's the avenue that we should go down, like, just don't let that get swept aside, because we might forget to bring that back around.
Are you talking about re-itemizing?
I'm just how they think where the money should land, if they think that that's something that we should be talking about and addressing. Because it seems like every meeting, we kinda have this stuff that kinda just like,
That always
we're
does.
blowing right by it. And I'm afraid it's not gonna come back around, but if that's something that they really want us to pay attention to, I wanna make sure that somebody writes it down somewhere that we come back to that.
No, absolutely.
I will reach out to Comstar and start the process. I'll certainly go through Jerry and
Yep.
he can update you all
That'd be great.
on when it's
Thank you,
coming
Chief.
or certain.
Appreciate all the homework, and this is good.
Well, there's a lot of questions and I'm learning as we go,
Oh, that's
so,
right.
right.
We're all learning.
Yeah, well, that's difficult subject matter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Donna,
Am I next?
you're next, my dear.
All
Come
right.
up to the microphone.
So, we're here to commit taxes.
Do we need to go into assessor session first? Sorry, I'm just asking.
No.
No.
Go right ahead.
No.
Thank you.
So this year, as a net, we picked up about 2.5 million in new value. We also dropped from 80% to 67%, which of course affects exemptions and everything else. So I've worked with Jerry. What you have in front of you are 3 options. The difference between all of them are a nickel. Right now, our tax rate is $20.70. The lowest amount that I have for you is $21.30. The difference in all of these is the reflection in our overlay. The $21.30 gives us very little overlay. The recommendation that I have, along with Jerry, is the $21.35, which gives us a $23,000 overlay. The $21.40 gives us a $42,000 overlay. Last year, our overlay was $135,000, and we keep it pretty high, but we also don't want to juice the mill rate any more than we have to. Whatever we don't spend for overlay goes back into undesignated. It's used for abatements, errors. It's a just in case kind of thing. So in order to try to keep the mill rate as low, Jerry and I are kind of hoping that you'd look at the $21.35 and be happy with, as happy as we all could be with it.
And-
Good recovery.
Yeah.
How much went into undesignated this past year?
From the overlay?
From the overlay, yeah. Just curious how much was left over.
Maybe 125.
Yeah.
So quite a bit. then.
Quite a bit.
So
Yeah. Yes, and I'd like to say I never really touch it, but the minute you say that,
Yeah.
it gets touched,
Yeah.
so. And the other thing is, so tomorrow, I'm coming back tomorrow afternoon after I work, and where nobody has really done billing here. And as the assessor, I don't do the billing, but we're gonna all work together and try to get it done. We also have the stabilization that comes into effect this year. It's the first time we've billed with stabilizing taxes, so we're gonna work hard to get everything done, get the bills out.
Any questions for Donna?
I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
I'm not sure if maybe like, I have a lot of questions about a lot of things, because I really wanna make sure that I understand this. This doesn't necessarily have to be a conversation tonight, but I would love to be able to meet with you
Absolutely.
to make sure that I have a clear understanding of like all the parts. I know that, you know, like
Yeah.
before I became a select board member, I had
Yeah.
emailed you often.
We've emailed back and forth,
Yeah, and I
yes.
appreciate that, thank you so much.
Of course.
But I definitely feel like I have a lot of questions around this process.
Okay.
And so I would.
And
love
the
that
hard part
opportunity.
is we do it once a year,
Mhm.
right? So it's like you start all over again. I am here the first and third Mondays. I'm open. Anytime you wanna come in or make an appointment or email me, but it's easier face to face.
Okay,
Yeah,
Joe?
And I was just gonna second what Heather said. I'd like to understand the process more at this point.
it's all a bunch of
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, and well, at this point, it's just like this is where I defer to you all's judgment and members who have experienced this more than me, but I would just like to learn the process more.
Of course, yes.
I,
Oh, sorry.
oh, I was gonna make a motion, so if you have.
That's what I was gonna make a motion to. I was gonna make a
Go for it.
motion that we, accept the recommended mill rate of 0.021350.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Joe seconds. Okay, any other further discussion? Okay. got a
Okay.
Motion on the floor, go ahead.
Oh, you haven't voted, no, sorry.
No.
I thought you.
You're,
wait.
you're
No, I was,
discussion, all in favor?
preemptively raising my hand.
I did have a discussion point. I'm not 100% sure we don't have to go with the assessors. Are we sure on that?
Yeah, I was thinking.
You
we
would
should-
know better than me, you've done.
I can't, we do this once
Once a year.
So this is only my 7th time doing it.
Yeah, see,
And I really
Well,
need-
you're the
Hang on,
municipal
hang on, wait,
officers,
wait,
so
wait.
you are
Yeah.
the selectmen / assessors.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
you do need to go into,
I think we're fine.
I don't think we ever have.
I don't.
We don't think we ever
it's-
have.
It's set,
We never
it's set
have.
by
Your
the,
memory's better
Yeah.
than mine on this, because
it's
you.
set by the
I-
select board,
Yeah,
right?
it is set by the,
yeah, that's very true.
but the
Yeah.
select
Thank
board
you,
is the
Josh.
assessors.
Yes,
Right,
But I
but
think
this,
Board of Assessors.
this,
Board of
but this,
Assessors.
this is set by the select
Right.
board, not the assessor.
And
And this is
I think
not,
you're right. I think you're right. And I know she's.
well, it's the
right.
municipal officers,
Right, and I know you're
So,
right. So
yeah.
that's why, I know
That
this is
makes-
only my 7th time, but I know you've done this a lot more than I have,
yes,
so.
yeah, so
I'll
we've
take your
always
word
just
for
done
it.
it here.
And that was my only.
Okay, thank you. So, all right, so we got a motion on the floor to accept the recommended municipal tax rate assessment of .02130.
Five,
Five,
sorry.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong page, 35, I had it circled, I didn't have a page turned over. Sorry, 021350, and that's been, what, all in favor in the usual manner? All opposed?
Okay,
Okay,
now, I have paperwork where you have to sign in 4 places. I'll pass it around. When it gets to Jerry, he'll put it on my desk for me.
okay.
Okay,
Cheers.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks for
Donna,
good
come in,
one.
I got lots of questions.
I have all the answers.
Thank you.
I already wore her out, I already hit her up before. Have a good night, Donna.
Bye.
Yeah. Watch out for the deer.
This is last year's, right?
Oh.
And then when I look at the numbers and where they get put into the calculations and stuff, they don't match, and like, I just don't understand why they don't match.
You get the special fancy pen just for signing the compass, flashlight.
Shiloh Church donation.
Sherry, you gotta get one of these.
Can we, you guys wanna continue while we're signing, or
What,
Yeah.
that,
continue while we're signing here, guys?
no, because we were supposed to do it. Yes.
Jerry, is this you, or is this the chief?
Yeah, this is both of us.
Both of
Come
you,
on up,
okay,
chief.
come on,
So-
chief. We gotta continue on
See
here.
what we
Should
got.
the lawyers at once.
So as you know, the generator at the fire station has been replaced.
Yes.
So that went to the old one, went to the Shiloh Church, and they gave a donation for it. We haven't deposited it yet, because we're really not quite sure how you wanna handle that.
Do I have to hold
But
it,
Chief
shake
can talk
hands?
more about it, because it was kinda him
Oh,
running that show, so.
really?
You
Pass that
know,
around,
it
or-
is considered surplus. I don't know what the,
Yeah, what-
Sorry, I just.
So
make sure
that was very
matches.
nice of the Shiloh.
And like I said, the email on
Sure.
the back of his report, on that point, remember it was stapled to the back of it, that's the email apology.
Which I'm not
The
looking at.
donation.
I'm not looking at that either.
I can give it to you.
Yeah.
So what is
So,
that
with, so anytime there's a donation, you folks have to say yay, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Is it a donation because because we gave them something? Is that?
Well, that's what I want Chief to
What's
kind
that?
of explain.
That's where I'm a little,
Yeah. I'm
Sure,
just- I'm
I
just-
I can give you the up-to-date version.
Okay.
When our generator replacement for the fire station went out to bid, part of the bid process was to remove the old generator. I think we all had a discussion really back in January when we were doing capital talk,
Right.
that we're not really in the market of surplus or selling old generators or trying to get copper out of it. So we would put into the bid spec, please remove old generator, it's yours, you do whatever you do with it. And that was the plan up until about the day before, where the Shiloh, and it's a lot of moving parts, said, hey, you know, we could really use that one. And I said, well, you know, that, we're under contract to pick it up. And literally when it was in the air, Shiloh came with a trailer and said, you know, if you put it down to the company, you know, this was not sort of the fire department side, more the generator company, because they had already talked. So Shiloh had talked to the generator, the new sort of administrator, chaplain for the Shiloh, I think has a niece that works for the generator company. And they had talked like, hey, maybe the Shiloh could use that.
Yeah.
And then I was approached by our chaplain who, you know, was on the fire department, said, geez, chief, you know, what do you got into it? And honestly, the town had put $2,000 into computers and electronics this year just to keep it running so we could get our new one. That was an emergency repair that wasn't in our budget, the fire department budget. Fire department did right. Every year, our line item is about 550 for maintenance, and we were well over 2,000 just to keep it going to this week. So I just made a suggestion to Shiloh, like, look, you know, that it really is to you and the generator company, because that's the town's contract. But if you made a donation, I'm sure the town would appreciate it, considering the town has money in it. They took it upon themselves, the Shiloh, to make a donation. I believe they tried to make it to the fire department, but at least to the town in the amount of $2,000.
Sorry.
So what's the question before us?
whether, if we're gonna accept the donation, I think is really the only question
Right.
that we have in front of us. I mean, it's a little, go ahead.
I mean, I feel like the donation should be going to the generator company.
Yeah.
They had talked.
Because I assume they would have gotten something out of it.
I didn't ask that. I believe, I haven't seen the final bill, but, you know, part of our bid spec was to get rid of it. They do
Right.
not have to get rid of it. After talking to them, I mean, more information for you, you know, it wasn't worth anything. I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they break it down to their individual components. I don't know. It was failing on its last legs. You know, it was time to replace it. Maybe that's on me for making the suggestion to the Shiloh. But again, out of good faith, no pun intended, they decided to make a donation to the town.
I mean, part of me wants to give it, say thank you, but I also think it would be a good way for us, for the town, to sort of recognize the fire department, and the extra work you're putting in, sort of some of the struggles you're having with staffing, and just as a thank you in some manner. You know, something special that can be used. But
Yeah,
I also wouldn't mind, you know, giving it back or doing something else, but I think it's very generous.
Right.
I think where I'm at is kind of like how you started at the beginning. Originally, we're not in the surplus business and so forth like that. So if, for example, another church for say, saw like, oh, this would have been available and we didn't get an opportunity. That's the only reason, that's the only thing where I have struggled with this. By that rationale, I would say, you know, they were there and if you said, hey, it was given to them by the generator people, then I'm fine with this 100%. But if we're saying, hey, we somewhat broker the deal, then it gets a little funny for me.
Sounds like it was set up by them and you
Well, that's
just,
what I was just gonna, so.
Yeah.
they were asking to give you something?
I just bring it to you, because I see the optics there
Yeah,
also.
that's the only optic thing for me.
Sure.
I get
And-
everybody's
and-
intention.
And I believe it's because of small town. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
our chaplain just retired out of the Shiloh, you know,
Yes.
and is close to the fire department. And then the new chaplain actually is the uncle to the generator girl. So, you know, small town stuff. I know they did talk back and forth, and I didn't try to broker a deal.
Okay, that's what I was just gonna ask. So essentially what you were saying is that the generator company took it away, but someone was in the know who was in the know who then said, oh, well, we'll take it if the generator company's done with it. It just, I understand the optics of don't wanting it to look like, oh, we'll let you have it for a $2,000 donation, and it sounds like there was never any sort of discussion like that.
Not a discussion brought forth by the town.
Yeah.
They asked, certainly, you know,
Yeah.
do you have the paperwork on it? Do you have all the data? Do you have the maintenance records? And of course, we do. And I provided that.
Yeah.
That's all public information anyway, so there's no problem.
Sure, and it was probably on me, but they asked, you know, how much do you have into it? Again, public information. We have a $2,000 bill this year into it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Shiloh has made itself available during, like extended power outages and stuff like that for
That's a true
community
statement.
members to go use their showers or warming facilities or kitchen facilities. and
That's
that
correct.
type
I've
of
been
thing.
telling the town manager, they are a stakeholder with the fire department as far as, you know, that's who I call when there's deaths that need attention or somebody is in some financial issues or they're a stakeholder as far as, and you're right, when there is loss of power or whatnot, they do house people.
So,
Go ahead, Josh.
part of me would like to say, to give it back,
Mm.
but I would make a motion that we accept the money and direct the town manager to use it as a sort of funds to thank the town employees for the work that they've been doing, not the fire department, public works staff here, everybody. And also publicly thank Shiloh for the donation, which they might not have had to do, and their partnership with the town.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Are you saying you second?
Well, if
No,
we
I'm
have a
making-
second, then we can discuss,
Right,
correct? So I'll second.
that's correct. Heather seconds? Discussion?
I feel like I definitely appreciate that, and I'm all about, I think it's very well known that I try to make sure that we are creating avenues for, letting town employees know that we value them. I also feel like I don't necessarily, I think that this is part of why we have a town manager. I think that
Yeah.
that Jerry can see where this would be most beneficial and let him make that decision as the town manager as to if we're going to accept this donation, how it should get used.
I don't disagree, but I gotta, we've gotta put it somewhere though, the money for a designated purpose. And so that's.
We do,
the-
can you, I'm not being
No, I know,
condescending
I know.
whatsoever, I
No,
don't
no,
I just
I
wanna
know where you-
understand that process.
No, yeah, and I guess I'm having a little problem with this too, that, the optics don't look very, the optics
So-
look a little funny to me.
So we just got that donation, I think it was at our last meeting, correct? And did we make a decision about where that went? Or was that just a
I think it was a
donation that was
donation to
accepted?
the Eureka Center.
Right.
Yes,
A
that was
donation,
dedicated,
and
yeah.
so how does this read? This is a donation, how? How does it read?
It doesn't, it just, it's
To the town.
just to the town, there's no, it's a thank you.
So if we accept it, it almost has to go in undesignated,
Right.
because it's not earmarked for anything
Yeah, it
specific.
goes into miscellaneous.
Even though it was
revenue.
bought for some, it was basically paid for something specific, it didn't say, hey, we'd like to make a donation
Right.
to the fire department or, you know, the workers of the town or
Mhm.
something like that.
Maybe
It
this
just-
says generator.
Right,
It says generator on it,
yeah, this would typically go into your miscellaneous revenue.
they would have to go, I think it would have to if they put
Yeah.
generator. They're basically wrote the check as if they bought something from us.
Right.
That's different than that way.
Right,
That's
so
why I was afraid of the optics of it.
Yeah,
This money really goes into next year's budget, because this budget's already set. You
Yeah.
can't really add to
Right.
it to,
Then I'll amend the motion
yeah,
to put it in the, what do you, the miscellaneous
revenue.
revenue fund account.
Hey,
So, but go ahead, decide.
go ahead.
No, we have a motion, let's, we can call it, I was gonna vote your motion down, I was gonna make a different motion.
Okay, that's fine, I don't.
No,
So do
it's-
you want me to second his motion so that you can?
We already had a second.
We have a-
Oh,
Well,
no,
he
I-
amended
We have a-
it.
Yeah.
If you want to amend, what was the amendment? I didn't hear it. Go ahead.
To amend the motion to put the $2,000 into the miscellaneous revenue account.
Okay, and do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Heather seconds.
yeah,
Okay, any further discussion?
I can make one other suggestion, you could put it into the fire, there's like a revenue for the fire department too, that was their generator. There is a revenue
It's a
line.
town's generator.
Right, I get it.
It's a town's
I'm-
generator.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion on the floor, gonna call the motion here, which is to accept the $2,000 donation.
I think we have to vote on the amendment first.
Excuse me?
We have to vote on the amendment to the motion first. Because we're in discussion on the amendment.
Okay, yep, we can vote on the amendment first. So the amendment to it is to changing the motion from allocating it to a employee appreciation day to allocating that money to the general miscellaneous fund. Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Abstain? Opposed?
You're opposed to changing the motion?
Oh, to change the motion, sorry, I thought we were voting on it, yeah, my bad.
All right.
You threw me off with this whole.
Sorry,
thing.
sorry,
When
sorry.
you,
Five
when you make an
zero.
amendment, then you
Five
gotta go
zero.
with it.
You're 100% right,
Yeah,
you
he
just
is
threw me
right,
off.
yeah, he
Yeah.
is right, yeah. So there's the amendment,
Yeah.
so we amended it to, all right, so amendment carries 5-0, which is to, we now,
Vote on the motion as
yeah,
amended.
yeah, so we're gonna vote on that motion as the amendment, the amended motion is to allocate the money to the
Miscellaneous revenue.
revenue fund, thank you. Any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Motion carries 3-2.
Well, why don't you say that?
Because there's a motion on the table, I said I was gonna, make a different motion. And then typically, that's why I got confused, if both parties are agreed that first and second, we don't take a motion on that if they agree to make it now.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was just going off, because like with Robert's rules, once you go into an amendment on a motion, you vote on the amendment.
Both
And it
parties
saves
agree.
time if the original person withdraws their motion, and then you make a new motion on.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Because you want to give them back.
I would've gave them, money
So
back
they
and
can
said,
do it
if they
differently.
wanted to, they could make a donation, but because we're not in the surplus business, and we didn't afford this opportunity for somebody else, then that's where I find it, I don't like the optics of it, but it's fine, we voted for it, that's fine.
Okay, let's move on. on to agenda items for next select board meeting. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
You all.
Are we talking about agenda items? I would love to speak if that's okay, or what are we
Yeah,
doing?
go.
Yeah, okay. So we had our workshop with GP Cog, which was amazing. Thank you again for that. And at that workshop, we talked about priorities, establishing them. And I would like to get on our agenda that we either have a meeting where we're establishing priorities, or we have a discussion so that we can vote if we have to be able to do that. I think that the sooner that we can establish what the board's priorities are, the better off our direction is gonna go, instead of, continuing to kick the can down the road and just dealing with what's in front of us, instead of working in a proactive way instead of a reactive way. So I'd like to see that in that.
So really, what you're looking for is another workshop to then go and, I'll say, go through a number of ideas, or we could just do it.
I think it could be at a meeting, just
Yeah.
not the next meeting, because Jerry will be here, I think he should be here
Right,
for
yeah,
that.
right, yeah, no, I agree, probably the meeting after, we could,
Yeah, just schedule it light.
yeah.
Jerry, just schedule it light. And
Yeah,
let's
and then
do
we'll-
it that
Not the
way.
meeting,
Yeah,
I
I think
can't
that's-
be at the meeting.
And if somebody's not gonna make it, maybe they could just forward to either Jerry or Joe what, a couple ideas that they maybe had, and then we can still proceed from there.
Right.
Not everybody would have to be here, everybody's voice can still be heard. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Cause it is that
However-
time, it's that time of year where people take a break, that's all I'm
Right.
saying.
Right.
Yeah, however we want it to go, if we have to have a vote to
Yeah.
do that, or however it needs to happen, I just would like for
I
us to
think-
get,
We'll vote as long as the board is okay
Right,
with it as a
yeah,
whole.
I think so,
I'm
yeah.
good with it.
And I think that that'll coincide with with the committee's report as well. They'll have a bunch of things that they'll be presenting to us before this. So that'll be a good platform to actually then for us to all
Yeah.
talk about that as well.
Yeah, and Chris from Casellas, I think, coming to the July 25th meeting too, so that's trash, so that's a good time.
Trash.
to
Oh,
talk
God.
about that.
Well, that's probably not a good meeting to hold this one,
Yeah, exactly.
because
That
that
might-
sometimes is very lengthy
Yeah,
meeting
yeah,
to talk
yeah, the
trash.
trash is gonna
Well,
be.
he's just kinda coming.
Mine's
in
getting
and
picked
job.
up, mine's getting picked up again, so, you know, I'm not
Well, he's just
complaining
kinda
right now.
coming in and giving you the industry, what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's fine,
all,
but
just
still,
to
that'll be a
fair.
large discussion though. So,
But he's scheduled for the 25th, so if you
That's
don't wanna
fine.
have the workshop on that day, I don't
That's-
wanna reschedule him.
no, leave him there,
Okay,
get him in here, that's important
Yeah.
as well. I think everybody.
so are we gonna do this before trash?
Be after trash,
So that's already a month out.
that's August. You're in August right now.
I'm confused.
Well,
Trash and-
today's June 27th, and and he's coming July 25th,
Yep.
and we're gonna have this conversation after that,
Mhm.
so now we're already a month out.
Yep,
So you don't wanna have the priority setting on the 25th, you wanna have it in August?
Well, I wanna have it sooner than that, but he's saying that Casella is gonna be
I
a
said
long meeting.
Historically, they've been a long meeting.
Yeah.
I'm not, they could be 5 minutes, they might, I mean, in the past, there were options, right? Now Casella's basically like, hey, this is what we got for you, take it or leave it, so I
Right.
mean, in some essence, I don't know what the point
I mean,
of
if
even
he.
talking to them sometimes, cause it's
Right,
not
I
like we
mean,
have
we're
much of
just
a
gonna,
say.
yeah.
Could I just make a suggestion about the Casella meeting, now that I'm like saying all these things that I'm saying? I don't remember if I had talked to you about this or if I had talked to somebody else about it, but I can't even remember what the name of it is now. North Yarmouth is using it for their recycle, what's it called? Help me.
Eco-Maine,
Eco-Maine, thank you.
Eco-Maine.
And I don't know, is that an appropriate meeting to also have them come and talk to us about what their whole situation is?
Really?
probably not at the same meeting.
Okay, because why, they're conflicting interests with each other, or?
Well, because it's a pretty busy, we'll be here until 11 if we have all these people come at the same time, plus we're gonna do a priority setting, so Eco Maine is a place where you bring your garbage, right?
Yep.
So Chris will talk about that too. I mean, so you're gonna be, and that's down in Poland, so that's a lot more transportation cost, but that all sort of plays into it. We can invite Eco Maine to, if you want. That's up to the board. I'll get them here if that's.
Well, what I wanna understand is how, like, North Yarmouth has $86,000 in revenue from Eco Maine. How that those are the things that I wanna understand. Like, we have a major trash expense, and here's a way that could potentially offset it, and so I'd just like to understand what's happening there that's creating $86,000 worth of revenue. How does that work? Those are the things I wanna understand.
We could bring someone in from North Yarmouth to tell us maybe.
Okay.
You know, we
Make a simple phone call.
could, yeah,
Yeah, just sounds like a phone call to me. I know how that works.
yeah. But
So just back to so trash is gonna be a big subject. It'll probably take a good portion of the night. So we either, and so is our little session to discuss priorities.
And Jerry, you're not here on the 11th.
Yep.
What do you anticipate being on the agenda on the 11th?
right now, you're gonna talk about signs with the codes enforcement guy.
That'll be-
Signs? Oh,
Signs.
okay.
That'll be a discussion.
And
It's a good time.
What are, and this is not appropriate, you can immediately squash this, and that's completely fine. What are people's thoughts on moving the July 11th meeting to the 18th, so that we could do the sign conversation and then also do the priorities? If we don't have a meeting on the 11th and we wait for you to be back, and then do the 18th and the 25th. So we could do priorities and signs the 18th, and then trash the 25th.
I think, I defer to you on this, you would almost have to have a short meeting on the, what's it called, just to sign warrant and so forth.
Right.
Cause that'll be,
On the 11th,
yeah,
be 2 weeks, yeah.
right, 'cause we gotta sign those warrants, cause we'll have to talk about those warrants too at some point too. I don't wanna get off subject here.
No,
but-
so,
Okay, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it was just a suggestion.
that's a,
I mean,
I'm
I'm,
only 3 people.
Warrants can be signed, you guys can come in and sign them.
right, we don't need to actually have a
You
meeting.
can do it that way too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that if you wanted to.
I mean, it sounds like
continue
our
down that
options
road.
are a long meeting or a short, or 2 or an extra meeting, right?
Or come in and sign
Come in and
the
sign on
warrants
the
for the
11th,
11th,
and
not
then,
have a meeting the 11th,
Yeah.
and then do
and
one
then
the
do
18th
two,
and
do
one the
18th and
25th.
one
And like I said, the trash might be very fast. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
are we discussing in terms of like what services are being rendered?
Where trash is going, so you all have an idea of where that's headed, cause before it was just
But-
Calvin and Kevin and I,
Right.
and
So-
just where
so-
that industry's
so-
going, cause
so-
we're gonna need to make a decision on where we're going with trash
but
after
is
this
that,
year.
sorry, is that what he's gonna present, where it's going?
Yeah, just
So
the
that, I'm
issue, what,
expecting that to be a long discussion
So what is,
with all this.
yeah, I mean, very well could, I don't know. I was just curious, are we totally reliant, are we not saying that we're gonna be putting this out to bid? That's what I'm saying.
well,
I
that's
think we
why.
have, we
Yeah.
have to put it out.
Yeah, we have to put it out to bid, so I mean,
If we decide to go that way, yes.
I don't,
No matter what we do, we have to put out.
no, I get that. I just don't get what, are we talking about for this year or next year before we
Yeah,
go out to
next year,
bid?
we have a year
What we're looking
left.
at, so we can plan for the
Right.
budget? Is that what we're talking?
Plan for the budget, plan to get the bid out there,
Gotcha.
how we're gonna do it, who,
And
because not everybody's gonna be the same as
Right.
Casella. You've got other vendors out there. Do you wanna go with them? What are some of those implications with going with a completely another company
Yeah,
that
no,
we're in
no,
the
no.
town? It's that whole
I
conversation.
was just trying to see what he was, if it was more for forecasting our budget, is what
No.
it sounds like. Yeah, that's what you're
That's-
telling me, right?
yeah, that's how I understood it, is he was coming to tell us because we should be expecting an increase
Right.
in cost.
Due to
And it was
industry,
the
right.
explanation of,
What those increases
Right.
are,
yeah,
It's a
that's,
what you can expect.
that's how I
That's how I
thought.
took it.
So it doesn't sound like we're making any trash decisions, it's
No.
just getting
No,
an
No,
update, so.
it's
So it
exactly.
would make me, lead me to believe that it's not gonna be terribly long, cause it's
We
like,
met with
we
them.
might ask clarification questions and
Right.
whatnot, but it's not like there's a decision to be made.
When we met before, it was a half hour with Kevin, I, and Calvin, with Chris.
Yeah, so I would just advocate for doing the, prioritizing meeting at the same time as the trash meeting, and just,
Yeah, I got no problem with that, cause the way you first said it, I
Yeah.
agree with you, if
If
it's just a
gonna be
forecast, hey, this is what we're looking at in the future, we can ask some questions, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, I mean, we can
And I think
sit there
that's
and
where
swallow
then if
it
we
all
really
day.
don't like what we're hearing and we say, we definitely need to hear some other opinions, that's when we could reach out.
Yeah, but this is just for budgeting, right?
Yeah.
Because next year is when we'll reach out to get other bids, this
Yeah.
is just because we're already under contract.
I think that,
But,
Yeah.
this could potentially become a priority, like,
It
you know
could.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
Should be a
if, what
huge
if,
priority.
right, what if we decide, you know, we're gonna change the direction that we're going in with trash, based on
Exactly.
what he says.
Exactly, and our budget season starts 6 months from now, so we need to kinda know where we're gonna go so we can
Yeah,
plan.
it's just a forecast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
we can put them both on, and if it gets too long, we can always table something for
Right.
another day.
Yep, okay.
So we're gonna do a regular meeting the 11th
11th,
and then just talk trash and priorities.
wait.
on the 25th.
No, I think, didn't we just?
Right.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Well, we were talking about not doing the meeting on the 11th because we were gonna do the priorities on the 18th, but now we're saying we're gonna do the priorities on the 25th with trash. So the meeting that's on the 11th can just stay on the 11th.
Okay.
Yeah.
If-
We'll have
I
a
mean, as
short-
long as everybody's
right,
cool
we'll
with
have a
that.
short meeting on the 11th,
I think it's fine.
that's
Like
fine.
I said, the trash thing, I think, if it's just we're just being, it's a forecast meeting, hey guys, this is what you're gonna be looking at.
Yeah, I
Any
think it's gonna
questions?
be,
It's
That's
probably
fine.
gonna be 15, 30 minutes at the max, I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
All right,
And we're
so,
just taking ideas.
so we'll leave the
we're
meetings
not-
where they are, 11th and 25th. We'll talk trash
Love talking trash.
and
And
other
priorities.
subjects, priorities, yep,
yeah, and the only thing I
on the
had
25th,
that
yep.
I wanted to bring up about agenda items, not necessarily for next meeting, but just to think about in the future is just, we talked a little bit in that workshop about, you know, adopting our rules of operation for our meetings, whether that's Robert's rules or anything like that, so I don't know if that would be something, we said we don't know if we have them written down. If there's someone who can get that information, then we can just kind of look at what we would wanna adopt for rules in the future.
I don't know if it's a policy, but I was under the impression all of these boards are under Robert's rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are workshop type items,
Yeah.
anytime when we're gonna discuss policy,
Right.
those, we need.
Right.
Yeah, it's just something I wanted to
Okay.
say that I wanna put on our radar.
Yeah.
Not- I mean, I
And
think
that's
the
why
other
we
things
should, we should
discussed are
have
more
more
important.
workshops, to
Yeah.
discuss those, so.
I don't, I just wanted to, two, maybe it's clarifying things. The policy that we just enacted tonight, the ambulance,
Mhm.
right? I would just like to suggest that that goes on our website,
Okay,
just so that people have a place to refer to that. And then also, the thing about Mr. Higgins, we posted that he just, what is?
Paramedic
Thank you.
Paramedic.
You know, we put down, we broadcasted that the planner or the town received that project award. And I just think that one of the ways that we can continue to show incentive to the people that are contributing, you know, to the town, especially through our town government, that we really highlight that he accomplished that either in the newsletter or on the Facebook page or whatever.
Jerry, I can certainly take that on and get with Kimberly
okay,
to do that.
okay.
Just
Like how, whoops, sorry, I'm sorry.
I can work on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like when Calvin got his award and, you know, that type of thing, I think that that just shows that we appreciate and gives the community the opportunity to chime in on
It's good
that, so,
recognition.
yeah.
All right. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, we move to consent agenda.
Move that we accept the consent agenda as
Second.
presented.
Josh moves, Joe seconds, any discussion, all in favor? That's all opposed, that's unanimous. All in favor. Okay, upcoming meetings. Got select board meeting on 7/11 and 7/25. Planning board summit on 7/5. And also let's see, we had 8, I'll move right into this, we're gonna just throw this out here. So we had 8 folks kindly volunteer and put their applications in for the Union Church Committee. I'd like to, I'll put a motion out there and then we can discuss, and then if we need to go into executive session, we will, but make a motion that we accept all 8 applicants. I read through all the applicants. And I'm assuming the rest of the committee did, or the rest of the select board did. Make a motion that we accept all 8 members to that committee.
I would like to discuss one of the, appointments, and so if that requires an executive session,
It
I'd like to
does.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then we
We'll
will.
recess this meeting.
Yeah, I will retract that then, and I'll recess this meeting, so, and we won't be going back into public session, so, make a motion that we, excuse ourselves from the regular select board meeting, and move into executive session per MRSA 4056A.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous.
When I close the doors, then you'll know that the
Yeah,
lights
and
are off.
I'm gonna de-water, as they say.
I just had a process question here, Terry. camera
Oh,
back on, commercial break. We should have some sort of commercial that runs during the executive session.
I could-
Play the Red Sox game.
Exactly, exactly.
But volunteer, it's not what to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We need advertisement, we need paramedics.
You got a CB in that Jeep? What do you got going over there?
I do.
I see the extra antennas.
Yeah, I do. Listen every now and again, see what's going on.
How about that car up in the air yesterday?
That was wonderful,
Right.
yeah, that was very interesting, that was a talented move.
So it was
I'm
funny,
sorry to
it's
say.
funny,
Did you roll up, chief, and you can't park here?
That was the Dukes of Hazzard.
so the baseball coach lives in that house.
Oh, okay.
And I got to the game and I said, Coach, were you home? And he was like, yeah, I was home. And I said,
We're on.
Okay, okay, okay.
Sorry.
I'll have time to finish
All
my
right.
story after.
Okay, yeah, we
Yeah.
need to come out of executive session first.
So I move that we come out of executive session.
Second.
All right, Joe seconds, all in favor in the usual manner, it's unanimous, we're out of executive session.
I
All right,
make-
Josh.
I make a motion that we table the Union Church Committee appointments until the July 11th meeting due to the increase in, or the level of interest that we've seen, and extend the application period to July 10th, and attempt to get that notice out there to the people who may not have applied but have expressed interest. And at the same time as we discuss this at our next meeting, I think we should discuss what the role of the committee would be, so that when they're being appointed to this committee, the expectation is clear.
Second.
Do I have a second? Joe seconds, all in favor? Okay, unanimous? Okay. Do I have a
Move to
motion? Move to adjourn, Joe, second, Josh, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous, thank you all, appreciate your time.
Jerry, I don't, yeah, so did we sign warrants?
I did.
Yeah, did I pile it in here? or did
Okay, I don't remember signing
Yeah, you,
I signed it.
payroll
Oh,